Welcome to the Town of Hilton Head Island Gullah Geechee Land and Cultural Preservation Task Force meeting. This is April the 3rd, 2023. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Karen, are we in compliance with FOIA?
Yes, we are.
Okay, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Mr. Abdul Malik?
Present.
Mr. Simmons?
Present.
Mr. Campbell?
Present.
Mr. Hens?
Present.
Mr. Stevens?
Here.
And Ms. Wright and Ms. Green are excused.
Okay. Next, I have the approval of the agenda. Do we have a quorum? We do have a quorum, don't we? I think we do. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Mr. Hens is moved. Second by Mr. Simmons. All in favor, just raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Next, I have approval of the minutes from our March 6th meeting. Hope you've had a chance to look through those. If you have no questions or comments, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the March 6th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Hens has moved, Mr. Campbell has second. All in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. All right, next I have the appearance by citizens. Do we have any appearance by citizens?
No, sir, we do not.
Okay, very good. I should pause a moment and just, again, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I do see Councilwoman Becker and Councilman Brown present, and of course our staff and all the other members of our public. So thank you for being here.
Yeah.
All right, staff report is the next item on our agenda. First is district planning update, and that will be presented by Missy, I believe.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, there she is.
I didn't see that.
Good afternoon, Missy Lewick, Assistant Community Development Director. Our district planning project is going before the Public Planning Committee on Monday, where we're going to present a draft districts map as well as a draft growth framework map to the Public Planning Committee to get some direction and feedback. And then we will, advance the project based on that direction. So we'll likely have a far more substantive update next month for the task force. But do tune in next week to that meeting to find out more.
You guys have any questions for Missy at this point? It's not. It is in the works.
I do have.
Yes, sir, Mr. Malik.
In the framework map, will that pretty much lay out the priority in terms of which direction or neighborhoods you intend to go or want to work in?
The framework map won't be by neighborhoods or at that scale or level. It's more or less the map that shows the areas that have capacity for increased growth or identifying those mixed-use center areas. When we go into the district planning by district, that's where we'll dive into more of the district level or neighborhood level planning.
Okay, and in your mind right now, how many districts are we, in theory, talking about creating?
8 total districts, with the Mid-Island District being one of the 8.
Okay.
And so those draft district maps also will be unveiled next week as well.
Thank you.
Other questions for Missy? And of course, this is in place of what we've been calling the overlay plan, moving toward district planning. So we're looking forward to a little bit more information on that maybe the next time around.
Yes, sir.
And it's fair to say that I know there's a lot of concern out there about what's going on in different parts of our neighborhoods and in the community, but as a task force, we are concerned about all of the neighborhoods, and we realize that different neighborhoods have different dynamics and have different needs and abilities. So we are taking that into consideration.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. All right, the next item we have is our Historic Neighborhood Design Studio report. This is also part of our staff report.
Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you here today. We have a brief update, just some update on activity on the Historic Neighborhoods Design, Permitting and Design Studios today. We'll continue to provide case studies throughout the year. Provided one last meeting and just wanted to update you on what we've been working on since the last meeting. So we've had 4 new requests come in, and those were varied in what they were requesting. There were some business license application questions. Food trucks came up, as well as mobile home placement and family compound and family subdivision. Most notably, working with families who have land to decide what application would be better for them based on their needs and what they're trying to do with their land, and talking them through the family subdivision versus minor subdivision applications and the differences in those, and helping them to make an informed decision on what to do with their property. So that's that. We've had a couple of completed requests or studios that we've been working on. And so just to remind you kind of what completed means in the design studio request process is that we've worked with the family, provided customer service, provided additional detail on how to set things up, help them with the concept design. And once we've delivered a concept design, which is site plan that's required for most of our applications, then the family takes that information and decides how they want to move forward, whether they want to submit an application, an official application or not. And so that at that point, we call that completed. Now, if the family has any additional questions or needs additional support, they could always come back to us. And at that point, we might put them back in an active in progress status. But once we deliver that concept plan, or they've said that they've gotten everything they need to be able to decide what application they want to submit or whether they're ready to submit an application, we'll call that completed. And so that's where we are with that. And we still have a number of ongoing requests and studios with which, again, kind of having that open line of communication with families, and if they're still in deciding mode about what they want to do with their land, given the design studio service, then we consider those active as well until they let us know that they have received everything that they need to make an informed decision to move forward. So if we'll plan to provide a case study for the next meeting. And that's it for the design studio process updates today. Are there any questions?
Okay, yes.
Krishana, do you feel like the majority of the historic neighborhood community knows about this
Turn your mic on
service?
first.
Oh. Do you feel like the majority of our population knows that this service is available for them at this point?
I can't say that I know for a fact that the majority knows that it's available, but we do make sure that we share that this service is available whenever we're out speaking in the community. We also ask that each of you let people know if they're coming to you with questions. And then, of course, if we get customer service, like phone calls, I get a lot of phone calls throughout the day, throughout the week. And, if it's a quick answer, I can give it to them. But if not, then I'll say, I think you might, benefit from coming to the design studio. And so I know a number of you and other people in the community are also spreading that word. I was going to give this update a little later, but I will just say that Luana took me around for introductions to the historic Gullah churches over the last month. And so we've made that very clear that the design studio process exists and that we are open, for new requests, and that people can utilize that service to be able to understand, land development, and then, just be able to ask questions and, of course, get those concept plans and the site plans and such. So we're definitely continuing to let that service be known through our outreach.
Okay. I know you said something about you had applications for food trucks too that came in. About how many applications for food trucks you had come in so far?
Since I've been here, under the design studio process, I've had 2. Okay. Now, the thing is, some folks don't know that the design studio process exists, right? So they might come through our another application process in the planning department. So that's not, 2 is not the total number that the town has received, but the 2 is the total number that have come through the design studio process this year.
Okay, now do I have to go through the design studio process if I wanted to do that, or?
You don't have to.
Okay.
You do, the food truck license does require a site plan. So if you need help with designing your site plan and getting the parking and access worked out, then if you either have the ability to do that outside of the design studio process or within this design studio process.
Okay, all right.
Yes, yes, Mr. White, you had a question?
Yeah, I had 2 questions. One is...
Please go on. You don't mind identifying yourself for the good of the
Hi,
group?
Andre White. A couple questions just about the design studio. One, like what's the duration, right? So if you bring in a site plan, like how long does it take to sort of get feedback? And then 2, what level of detail goes into it? Is it like at that point I'm ready to like submit for, one of the subdivision applications, or do I still need to go work with the surveyor or planning company to then come back with that package? Thanks.
See if I remember both of those questions. So I know I can, try to answer the last one about how long does it take to get the concept plan going. It depends on, the staff's workload, but we let people know that it's usually between 1 and 3 weeks, depending on how many requests we've recently gotten. And of course, our planners work on not only the design studios, but also the other applications that are coming through the town. And then what level of detail? We provide a great level of detail. We will, work through various parts of the LMO and how that might affect what people are trying to do with their land. So that's a high level of detail that we can provide if the request, requires that level of detail. We also we have our designer and our planners on staff that help to develop those concept plans. And so we talk about the access. We talk about, from our perspective, what we know about how that needs to be done. We involve other parts, other divisions within the community development department and other departments, such as fire rescue, engineering, stormwater. We will involve them as well in the design studio process, which they're usually involved in the application and development review anyways. And so we offer that level of detail and expertise in the design studios as well.
And one follow-up on that?
Sure.
So so then, to the extent that you get that level of detail from the town, can you then take that and use that in your application? Or do you have to still go out to the design community, have them design it, and then submit the application?
Okay, thank you. That was your other part. So we provide a concept plan that the applicants are then able to take to the surveyor to try to, that service is to try to help cut out, back and forth communication with the surveyor. And so, yeah, that we provide that to the applicant, and they can take that, and that is what is required for the application, is to have a site plan, depending on which application it is. I will say that we're working on a number of process improvements. As you know, this is a newer program, and so we're working on some things to help make the process smoother and work faster as well.
Okay. I want to back up a little bit. Miss, I might ask you to reapproach and help us with this. Last week, there were some things that were approved through the Planning Commission, and that was the definitions of the family compound and family subdivision, I believe, in accessory units. Can someone give us a little update on that? Just a little clarification on it while we're in this setting.
Yeah, Ms. Seals, go get that to you.
Hello again. So the Planning Commission reviewed our Phase 3 set of the LMO Amendments project and made a recommendation that will also be going to the Public Planning Committee next Monday as well. That amendment set was to change definitions not for family compound or subdivision, but for single family and multifamily. And then also to eliminate divisible dwelling units, which are lockout units. And so the amendment recommends changes to clarify those two definitions of single-family and multifamily. Single-family currently is defined as 2 or less, and it's to simplify that and have the definition for single-family be 1 dwelling, and multifamily then would be 2 or more. So that's the recommendation. And then it's to eliminate divisible dwelling units as an accessory use. So that's the amendment set overall. I don't know if you had questions about that amendment, but it will be going through the public review process, again, to Public Planning Committee next week.
Okay, we'll probably be taking a deeper look at that as well. Do you have any questions for Missy about that? Just wanted to make sure that we were bringing that forward. This is what transpired last week. Thank you.
So she said it did not affect family compound and family
Right.
subdivision.
That's correct.
Single
It
family.
Just a matter of definition. A definition change is what you're talking about.
It's a definition change, yes. Family compound and family subdivisions are considered single-family use. So the change in single-family to multifamily does not impact those development types.
Now, what about setback requirements?
There will be some changes to how setbacks and buffers are applied with the change from single-family to multifamily. Again, this applies only to those properties that currently have 2 homes on one parcel, because all other properties with 3 or more homes on a parcel would already be using the multifamily setbacks and buffers. And we identified that was around 146 possible properties. But of those properties that only had the density to have 2 units on them, it pulled it down to, I want to say, around 50 properties. And of those, the differences in the setback and buffer tables that are applied, it's actually no change to the adjacent street setback or buffer. In most cases, it's no change, or the setback and buffer is reduced for the side setbacks, depending on your adjacent use. And the only areas where there could be a larger setback or buffer is if you're adjacent to a tidal or freshwater wetland. And from our analysis, there were only approximately 10 properties that could have nonconforming structures on them based on that change.
And of those 10 properties, how many are in the historical neighborhoods?
Well, originally we looked at, of the 146, about 90% were in historic neighborhoods. I don't know how many of the 10 would have been in a historic neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay.
And this will kind of be in line with what we're planning as far as like the district planning. That won't affect what the work that we're doing going forward with district planning. My comments last week was trying to make sure that we're not putting something in place that we have to go back and try to undo, and making sure that we, do it right the first time.
Right. Well, certainly with district planning, we anticipate, bringing the districts through, the implementation arm, which would be possible LMO amendments to bring them into conformance with what the community through the district planning process identifies as the needs for the built environment in those districts. So we anticipate that there will be code changes as a result of district planning, without a doubt.
And these definitions that were brought forward are going to the planning committee?
Public Planning Committee.
Planning committee.
Yes.
Okay, so they're not in place yet. Will those
No, sir.
then go to town council
For 2 readings, yes.
for 2 readings? So the public will have an opportunity to give input, and we'll get some.
Correct. It's
More
still going
definition.
through the public review process.
Okay, good.
And if this does passes, and how long will it take for it to get to go in effect?
It would be enacted if it were passed at second reading.
Okay.
Second reading, yeah.
All right.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Missy. Okay. Was that it for the,
I have a question for Krishana.
okay.
You mentioned in your report that you and Luana had gone around to the historic churches, and the question I have is whether or not, was that during the service, or was that those visits at an administrative level, like deacons and ministers, or was that the whole, congregation?
That's a great question. We actually went during the service, so we were able to enjoy the service with the congregation. and then also speak at a certain point that was designated for us. And then I was also going to mention later on, but I'll mention it now, that we have been invited back to the churches to provide additional time to have conversations and also share more in detail about some of the programs that we were talking about when we went out for introductions. So I will be in continued communication with them as well, and hoping to provide some public education and outreach in a longer setting so people can utilize that service. And I've gotten customer service calls about how we're communicating with seniors, and so word of mouth, and being able to talk in person and meet folks where they are will be a part of that strategy.
So, I'm sorry, were you finished?
No, I'm just saying, I think that would be the way to go. I mean, make sure that the information gets to as many persons as possible versus, it get, top down and it gets bogged down at the top, So I think that's a good approach. That's the best approach.
Yeah, I was just going to add something to that, and I was going to mention that too, so I'm glad you mentioned it in your report. I know that you have been going around visiting the churches, because LaWanda was supposed to be singing in church with me that time. But anyway, that's a different...
I didn't know she sing.
But the point I wanted to make was that I was aware that you were doing that. We have made an effort to be in touch with the churches and the ministers. We have a pretty good communication going with them about once a month. I do know also that there's a newsletter that comes out of Mount Calvary, which is another source of communication for helping to get that word out. And so we're trying to do a better job of getting that word out, not just on paper or through electronics, but actually in person. So I'm glad that you were able to go in person and continue to put your face out there in the community so people know who you are, and also sharing that information.
Absolutely, and I attend other events as well out in the community, and plan to continue doing that. So we'll keep making it known and being available.
Yeah, just quickly, I'd like to comment as well. Krishana visited, I happened to be at my church on the day of her visit, so I know that her visit was very well received, and the information in a short period of time, she delivered a lot of information to the community, or to the congregation at the time she was there, that was very well received. So I know the visit, at least at First African, was a good visit. And I think in the short period of time, and with me being there to explain further what we do here, her visit went very well. Also, I'd like to back up and comment on Mr. White asked a couple of questions about the design studio, and I think one of the focus that we need to keep in mind is that when you come in with an application, of course, there are several applications for whatever your goal is. So, the main thing is that when people come in, they should know, first ask, do I have the right application? And the assistants that I participated in one application here recently with the planners and everyone, the process is relatively easy if you know what it is your goal is when you come in. They can assist, and that process goes relatively smooth. So, and it's the more that residents hear about the process and how it goes, I think they'll have a pretty good idea when they come in of which application, and then the process goes pretty smooth from there. So,
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any more questions for Krishana?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Krishana.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Simmons. It's very important for those of us, certainly on the task force and in the community, that know that this program exists, to be good advocates and to make sure that we're helping to spread the word as well. So that's very important. Okay, the next item we have on our agenda is the Home Safety and Prepare Program update. And you're going to have to help me with this name. Is it Nikte? Okay, very good.
Good afternoon, Nikte Barrientos. So for the Home Safety and Repair Program, as of today, April 3rd, 2023, we have received 106 applications. 76 of those have which been approved. 36 have had site visits completed with town staff. 20 of those are just now awaiting contractor bidding, and 11 of them have had contractor visits held, and we have had estimates from various contractors, and we have been able to actually award a contract and contractor will be able to start as soon as he acquires all necessary permits. We have 45 site visits scheduled to be scheduled with town staff first and then contractor bidding. And then we have 6 applications which are under income verification review at the moment. 15 applications that need additional information, whether it be income or property, proof of ownership. And then 7 of these that still need either have actually been income approved, so they're probably needing signatures, proof of ownership, et cetera, which I have contacted all applicants just to let them know in order to move with the process that they need these. 8 applications did not meet income qualifications, all which have also been updated on their status and have been known that they have not qualified for the program. Application info has slowed down over the past month. For the week of March 27th, we actually only received 1 application. Applicants at all stages of the program were actually sent letters with updates on their status in the program, just kind of letting them know where they are, what else they need, and if they have been approved, what they can expect as far as a timeline for visits, contractor visits, et cetera. And for the sewer connection program, we have 25 applications that have been approved. 18 have letters of approval for connection estimates. 14 of those have actually been completed. And then we have 4 that have yet to be completed, but are underway. And then we have 7 applications needed that need estimates still from PSD. And that concludes my.
Okay. Questions? I'm sorry, can you please give us your name again?
Nicte
Nicte.
Barrientos.
Okay, I'll go with Nicte.
Yeah. I have a question. Out of the 8
Yes.
that didn't get approved for income, is there another source that they could go through? Or was those 8, were they the owners of the property? Were they renting it out?
They are owners, so in order to apply for the home safety, you do have to be the owner. We don't.
Okay. All right.
There
But-
aren't any specific alternatives that we have really found at the moment. I know that some of the other Habitat and Deep Well do have their separate programs, but they are also on an income verified basis, and a lot of them also don't meet the requirements. So we don't want to send out people to also be maybe rejected somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is pretty much the only criteria that would disqualify them is the income?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And ownership as well for the
And
home
ownership.
safety. Yes.
Yeah. Was it like a single household or a 2-person household?
It
How does
varied
it-
with them. Most of them were 2 or more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question regarding how contracts are awarded. In terms of, I know that the contractors have to go through, submit a application to be in the running,
Yes.
but then once a person is in that list of available contractors, how do you determine which contractor will get which job? Is it bidded on? How many bids do you accept, or how does that work?
We need at least 3 bids in order to be able to award a contract. And then that's something that we review with the building division and procurement, just what they're able to do with the amount that we have. So we would just choose the best at overall, who's able to do the most with the money that they have available and what.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can make a follow-up.
Okay, go ahead.
With regard to the sewer water connections, if someone doesn't qualify at the PSD level, they submit an application to you?
So for sewer, we actually, you have to submit your application to Deep Well before and they will go through their verification for the for their project, and then if they don't qualify for them, they'll bring it to us. So when the applications get to me, they're already approved.
But, okay, but again, the awarding of that contract to a contractor, does it go through that same process of 3 bids?
No, the sewer is just going through PSD.
Okay? All right. I guess my question may probably be directed more to PSD in terms of how they determine, you know, which contractor gets the job based on, you know, how many bids they're accepting.
They are the ones doing the connections. PSD are the ones, our contractor
So
for the sewer connection.
let me make sure I understand. A person submits their initial application to Deep Well, and let's say the application is not accepted. Then they'll submit an application to the town because they didn't qualify for income at Deep Well, right? And the town accepts the same number from PSD from the original contract to get the work done.
No, it's 2 separate programs.
Yeah, 2 separate
See,
things.
it's two
Yes,
se-
it's a
two
separate
programs.
process. It's,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's okay. I can help with that a little bit. So Deep Well works with the applicant, and they first look at their income levels to determine which application they should apply for. So they have volunteers on staff that would direct the applicant to either fill out the Project Safe application paperwork or the town's application. But they go through the income verification at Deep Well, and then as Nick Day identified, we get a package that is a fully approved application. And then as far as the contract approval through PSD's handles the contractors through their procurement process, and they do have contractors that they're working with. We review and approve the estimate for the connection and send that approved estimate amount to PSD, and then they handle the contractor component.
Okay, so PSD sends you get approved work from Deep Well. And that information ultimately ends up here because the person didn't qualify at the Deep Well level. And there's a price for the installation of that work at $15,000, let's say. The town then says, of the $15,000, we will underwrite 10,000 of it. Is that what you're saying?
No, we're awarding the full estimate for the sewer connection program.
Okay. Okay, but then there's no check as to whether or not PSD went through the 3 estimates to get you that price?
PSD is handling all of their procurement through their procurement program, so we're not involved in their estimating with the contractors, no.
Okay.
So we're only awarding the contractors for the home and safety repair.
That's correct.
Yeah, it's 2 separate. Processes are different.
Yeah. Now I have a question about the contractors for the home and safety repair. Is there someone, when those contractors are finished with their work, is there somebody from the town to go and check upon the work that they have done?
Yeah.
Sure. The work requires permits, and just like any permitted project with the town, there's inspections that take place. And so, yes, it follows all of the routine inspection process to close out a building permit that we go through as a part of our standard operating procedures.
Okay.
I have a question relative to the contractors themselves. It seems like the last time we spoke, you did not have any number of general contractors, and there were going to be a process or a blanket contract that you were going to use, and then maybe might have people who could do the work basically come under that blanket general contractor. Or have we gotten information from local general contractors themselves?
So we're doing both at the moment. We have the contract with Gordian, which they are using a contract with the state that allows them to undergo, again, the 3 bids. So what I did was send them this bundle of 10 homes, and then I gave them the bundle of 10 homes. And then they were able to go through their list of contractors, and the contractors were able to come out and look, which I also gave them the list of local contractors that we have, and they did reach out to some of the local ones, which some went out for bids, which is what Gordian had told me, but we didn't end up going with any of their estimates. So the contractor that we have the contractor that we did award the estimate to is overall Gordian, which is the state contract, but there is a subcontractor that is working under them, which is going to be the one coming into the homes and repairing all 10 homes. I have also sent out a bundle of 3 homes in the past 2 weeks to the contractors that are on our list of verified contractors, but I haven't gotten any estimates yet. I have received from a couple of them that they have gone out to the homes to inspect. I'm just waiting on estimates. I will be reaching out to them this week just to kind of see where they are on things and see if we can move on with these 3 homes.
So I guess I'd like to somehow know, did we have any local contractors who are on the list? I know you had the blanket contractor, and I know there's a couple native contractors, builders, repair people who I've spoken with that said they either attempted or otherwise would like to get on the list who can do the work. So I was just curious as to whether we had any of the local contractors, native contractors who have actually submitted their qualifications to be on the list.
They are
I guess
on the
that's
list.
my question.
Yes. We have our verified list, and we do have native island contractors on there. And again, which I have sent out these bundles to, and I have heard back from a couple that they have gone out. I'm just waiting on estimates now from them in order to be able to award a contract for these 3 homes. So,
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because I've spoken with some people out in the community too that were contractors and they were kind of waiting to hear, I guess, from your office about that process. And they were making an investment in insurance and things like that. And it's kind of tricky out there with hiring labor and not knowing how much labor to hire if they don't have an idea about the contract, certainly if they're not awarded it yet. But I think they're hearing more from us now. Is that what I understand?
yes, they should be.
And the other part of the question was, do we know how many of those contracts that have been awarded are native islanders or locals?
That we have awarded,
Yes.
none. It's the 10 homes were with the one contract with Gordian. So we have not awarded any contracts to native islanders yet. Again, I haven't received any estimates to the ones that I have sent out to them. So I have not been able to award anything because I haven't gotten.
But
Can you tell me a little bit about what kind of work is being, some of the contract workers out there?
Yeah. Right now, we are seeing a lot of roof repairs that need to be done, deck repairs, railing, just flooring in general, whether it's kitchen throughout the home. We also have a few window repairs that have been, but mainly roofing, and we've noticed that with a lot of the homes that need roofing, it is going to be their main work. Most of the money is going to be going to the roofing, so even though they are putting a lot of different work that they need done, we may only have enough money to do roofing or flooring or decking. We may not be able to do everything all at once, but it is a program that they can reapply for in the following year.
And that program, how does that work? Will those funds renew? We get a new batch or we use what's left over or what?
We get new funding, $100,000 per fiscal year, or $200,000, I'm sorry.
Well, we're
No,
putting in
just
the
kidding.
budget,
I'm
so
sorry.
the new budget will go to, for review and approval, and we're seeking $200,000 to extend the program.
Sorry, you had another question?
Yes, I did. So if I understand correctly, is it Gordian, is what you're saying?
Gordian, yes, is,
So Gordian has actually been awarded 10 contracts,
it's, yes,
10 individual contracts, if I understand you correctly, for 10 individual repairs.
yes, 10 individual repairs that are all under one contract.
Right. And they have not awarded those repairs to anybody as of yet that they have not started it.
They have not started, they can't start until the contractor has acquired all the permits that he needs.
Okay, I mean,
So once he gets those, he'll be able to start, and we're looking hopefully within the next few weeks or so. I can't guarantee the specific timeline right now.
Okay. Any questions? Very good. Okay, thank you, Nick. The next item that I have on the agenda is the town open positions update, and that is Ms. Krishana.
Hello. I don't have a lot to say about this. Missy might, have some updates on interviews and such that have been going on. So we're just providing, an ongoing list of, what positions are currently available. As you can see at the top of what was in your packet for this item, we have hired, we've been hiring across the town. And we have, and also in the community development department, so we've hired a few new code enforcement officers, and our customer service manager position has been filled, and the person has started, which has been wonderful. That customer service manager is over the Community Development Information Center, so the folks in the front when you come into Town Hall who deal with permits and mobile home placement and small residential development. Most of those applications that folks are doing, so that is going to help our processes a lot of having hired that person and them starting. Are there other any questions or updates that you wanted to receive about these?
Questions for Krishana?
All set. And I think that's it.
Okay, this section was items that were on the staff report, and I want to pause just a minute to ask if anyone in our public or in attendance has any question about any of these items under the staff report. I did not pause at each one of the items, but I have our staff here. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our next item, which is a discussion item. Delinquent tax and heirs property is going to be presented by Krishana and Ms. Luana.
I just wanted to introduce this topic first, and then I'm going to hand it over to Ms. Luana. But I just wanted to share just some good news and some official work that we're doing around delinquent tax and heirs property as related to the Gullah Geechee Cultural Preservation Project report. So we've been partnering with Heritage Library and Low Country Gullah, throughout time, but we've got an official contract with Low Country Gullah to provide more in-depth, services, and that we're partnering with and going alongside of that organization to be able to more fully respond to and provide expertise to folks who are, inquiring about disentangling heirs property issues or support and help with the delinquent taxes. So I'll let Luana share more about what those services will look like, and you have an information in your packet as well. And one item that I just want to, I was going to put some emphasis on something, but I forgot what the emphasis was, so not quite necessary, but I'll hand it over to Luana.
Sing, Luana.
That was yesterday. Matter of fact, I don't think my voice is ready for it today, so I'm all sung out for today.
I would
But-
like you to, maybe you're going to do this already anyway, but just kind of introduce yourself and your position and your status and your...
Luana Graves Sellers, founder of the Low Country Gullah Foundation, which specifically works towards untangling heirs property issues as well as assisting Gullah family owners property owners who are struggling with paying their property taxes. We've been doing this for years, and the process that we have had has been able to save several homes on Hilton Head over the past few years, and the collaboration with the town is a good one because it enables us to get a little bit more, let's say, entrenched into the community from the grassroots side as well as the municipality side. As Krishana mentioned, we did go around for the last couple of weeks to all of the Gullah churches that were on the island. We're able to speak to them, and my phone has been ringing too since then, as a result of information that I was able to leave behind, as well as explaining what the organization does and the work that we do untangling heirs property. There are several properties on the island, and that is one of the first projects that Krishana and I are working on, is not only getting a new updated count on the property that is on the island that is Gullah-owned, so that we can use the last numbers as a metric or, our baseline, and then be able to track it from there and be more specific in tracking it as we are trying to preserve it as well. The other thing that was shared during the time at the different churches was the upcoming April 15th Free Wills Clinic that we are hosting, along with the Center for Heirs Property. I am happy to share that the event is sold out, if so to speak. There is a waiting list for it. So as a result, the plan was to have another one later on in the year, but I am currently waiting on a date for another one because we are also partnering with the Low Country Legal volunteers, and so they will be providing the upcoming Wills Clinic that we'll have. So I'm waiting for a date from them on when we can do it, and I'll announce that probably once I get it. So those are some of the things that we're doing. In addition to the Wills Clinic, we are going to have workshops with the Center for Heirs Property, bringing them on the island, as well as the treasurer and the assessor, so that people have the opportunity to not only learn about the process, but also have intimate conversations and access to those people, because I think that is one of the biggest parts of the issue that exists, as well as having a workshop with Linda and the center and the Heritage Library, so that people can get an idea on how to unravel the family tree and identify the different heirs, because that is the first stop in trying to resolve things. So we do have a heavy calendar that is coming up. Once dates and times and locations are solidified, I will share that with you.
Mm-hmm. And just to let you know, too, I ran into this 2 weeks ago. There's a scam going around, and this person or people are targeting heirs properties. So the situation was that it was somebody that found the heirs property, called an elderly realtor. That realtor listed the property and had 3 offers on it, and come to find out, that person never owned the property. So I had to contact the relatives. They talked to the realtor, had proof, and they took that property off the market. So if I did not contact them, that realtor would have sold that property, and that person would have went away and got that money somehow. So just to let you know, there's a scam out there, and it's happening.
That doesn't surprise me, and unfortunately, scenarios not specifically like that, but different kinds of scenarios do happen on a regular basis. And switching to the conversation that I had with the Joint Committee on the Study of Heirs Property, trying to protect people so that information and details like that is not as readily accessible to people is something that is really necessary because, and I don't know if I mentioned it previously, but at least in Beaufort County, if I wanted to have your tax bill sent to me, all I have to do is call and say to the tax office that I'm an interested party. There are no checks and balances when it comes to that, and to me, that's one of the first things, among other things, that need to be addressed. So yeah, I appreciate your sharing that with me, and at the bottom line is people need to be educated, and having these kind of conversations and sharing this kind of information and making sure that people are aware of the ways that people are trying to take advantage of them or how they can fix things is why we're in the game.
Okay.
Yeah, I do know that you also have a very robust educational part of your program as well, so that we're not only helping people, but we're also helping them not to be return customers, if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, resolution is at our foundation. You know, we don't want to be a Band-Aid. We don't want the expectation that we're going to pay your taxes, so see you next year, and we'll be back to have your taxes paid. We, through our vetting process, are very specific about do they have a need, you know, financially, but also making sure that whatever the reason why they're needing the financial assistance is resolved. So whatever the needs are, based on situation by situation, that's how we're focusing on making sure that things are
I think
resolved.
it's important to mention that. Thank you. Other questions for Luana?
I do. Hello, always good having you.
Hello.
On the, when you do have the wills clinic, how likely are people going to be able to have wills, or will they be able to get wills done at that time, or is this primarily an educational endeavor at this point?
People will be able to walk in the door, sit down with an attorney, have a private conversation, and walk out with a will.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is the goal, yes.
Did you ever ask them if they could do a trust?
That is that's a good question, and that is something that conversationally, a workshop on having trusts is part of the heirs property conversation. But establishing trusts, I don't know if that's something that someone can do if an attorney could do that in a short amount of time so that they could walk in and walk out with it. That's a question that I will definitely ask, but yes, that is definitely something that is within the long list of different topics that we address.
Yeah. That's good.
Yes, sir, Mr. Henson.
First of all, kudos to the town for having the foresight to hire the Low Country Gullah Foundation for this assistance. This is wonderful. You're the expert. Bringing the experts, it'll make it help facilitate the process much better. I noted that there's 4 points where your organization is going to help the town. Are they directly correlated with 4 points on the Gullah Geechee Cultural Preservation Project report, or is it kind of a mixed within all of those 36 items?
Well, the list that you're seeing that is our scope of services is based on the different elements of what we do in the process to handle heirs property. So if in the part of the beauty of this is that we've kind of streamlined a lot of different areas between the town and the Heritage Library so that it's more one-stop shopping, so to speak, versus I have to call here, I have to call there, I have to call here. The foundation is more the centralized go-to.
Okay.
And then from there, based on the need and the verification process that we have, then we can then forward people on to wherever direction they need to go.
Gotcha. Second,
I can answer this a little It's a great question to, tie this into the report. And yeah, this does, directly align with the heirs property recommendations 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then that also, relates to the Heritage Library's role in this as well. So we're still partnering with the Heritage Library and just, really leaning on Luana for her expertise and just kind of like streamlining the process so people aren't having to go through 3 different groups when they need help with the heirs property, or if they're trying to get to the Heritage Library but it comes out that they really need delinquent tax help, then there's a more kind of symbiotic and free-flowing relationship and partnership that way. So
Yeah, as we have resources and expertise, let's just work together and figure out how it's going to best be accomplished. That's wonderful. A follow-up question. And this is, you're not going to have an answer, but just in general, of all of our property that are in the historic neighborhoods that are Gullah-owned properties, what percent would be considered heirs property? What percent it would have titles?
So we're chuckling because that is the million-dollar question, and it's a very hard one to answer. Like you said, we do not have the answer right now, but we are trying to get it. It's on all of our minds, and it is somehow embedded in the data that will be combing through. The town just got the GIS updated data with all this information, and we will be trying. Cannot promise that we will be able to really get a firm answer on that, because it is hard to know that, just because of the how far it goes back and how many people are involved, and then whose name is on the tax bill and whose name is on the property when we get that information. So we're working on it. It's on our minds, and we'll be figuring out how to do that. And if there's not a way we can't get an exact answer, hopefully we can get a roundabout or some sort of estimate by neighborhood or something like that. So we're working on that.
Yeah, I think that's a challenging question for a lot of reasons. There's a few things that I would add that we should probably understand, certainly about heirs property, and certainly with tax assistance. And when we start talking about trying to identify properties in the community that are either Gullah-owned or in historic neighborhoods, many have probably changed hands, most likely. So that makes it a little bit more difficult to identify it just by the name on the tax bill. All of heirs property is not just in Native Island properties areas. They can be in sea pines or palmetto dunes or anywhere. Heirs property can happen just about anywhere. The piece that I'm most excited about with organizations like Low Country Gullah and what Luana's doing is the education piece is how do we stop the trend of falling into heirs property. Now, we noticed that mostly in our culture. But like I said, it can happen anywhere. But we noticed that a lot in our historic neighborhoods and certainly in our Gullah culture. It is a part of our recommendations. The other part of your answer is, yes, it is very much related to the recommendations, because within those recommendations, we said that we would need to reach to outside resources to help us with this. That's for us as a task force and even the town staff. Certainly for organizations that are in the grassroots, it's even better because they've got their feet on the ground, they've got their ears to the ground, so we get to know the people and we kind of get to know the situations. So just to kind of add a little something to that, yes, it's a very complicated question and probably even more complicated answer a lot of times.
And
Did I say that right?
Yes, and if I can just follow up to that, I don't think there will ever be a perfect 100% answer. I think based on really guesstimation, we can kind of get there, but sometimes people don't even know they're living on heirs property until they realize there's a problem with the property. So that in itself creates a whole level of unsurety that exists, where there have been properties that the county has identified as heirs, or people list their property as heirs of, then, the county is starting to compile those kind of things, and as well as based on specific pockets of neighborhoods, there are lists. neighborhood by neighborhood. But will there ever be a specific number? No. I also do know that on the state level, that is one of the top issues that they want to address, is to find out as best as possible how much heirs property does exist. So, we're doing it locally, but it will be done, it's going to be a top-down thing as well to the county, because the county's lists are based on the lists and information that we gave from the town. So, they're really trying to figure it out. So, no, I don't think there'll ever be a perfect number that we can assign to it. It's just as best as we can get to.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions from the line? Okay, great. Thank you for your work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I find that we are down to the last item on the agenda, which is adjournment. Do you have any questions or comments before we adjourn? Anybody in the public have a question before we? Okay, seeing none. Yes, sir.
I just want to make a note. Probably everybody knows that Senator Tom Davis will be at the library at 3
Today?
today, discussing on the hate crimes bill.
Oh, go ahead.
So I don't know if you have time, maybe good this afternoon. I know he's going to be focusing on that, but if he knows us there, we're there, it'd be literally impossible not to answer a question that we may have about some of our interests. He'll be asking.
Thank
So
you.
he's at 3 today.
Good, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
no charge.
Thank you. Very good. Yes, sir. What's that?
Oh, her PBS story.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't see it. I was wondering if you could tell us about it.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't see that either. He was asking me about the story that was on PBS about Low Country Gullah, and Luana featured, and it was a premiere showing on yesterday at Ruby Lee's. Do you want to share a little bit about that with us, Luana?
Yeah.
Sure you do.
You really put me on the spot today.
You didn't send to that. I want to know.
Well, thank you. Yes, my documentary, Harriet Tubman, From the Railroad to the Spy, had its broadcast premiere last night on PBS. It is showing again tonight at 8 o'clock. So if you missed it yesterday, you can definitely see it. And it's also airing on the 15th. And yes, I'm extraordinarily excited about it, and happy that part of the Harriet Tubman story includes Hilton Head. And so the fact that it is out there and putting the Hilton Head story in a different perspective for people is really part of the excitement that I have, that more people know that Harriet was here. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good. Okay, we are down to the last part of it. And again, I just want to remind everybody that the Gullah Geechee Land and Cultural Preservation Task Force is a subcommittee of the Planning Commission. We are doing the work trying to help preserve this culture as it was identified by Town Council several years ago as a priority, and that there was a threat to the culture here on the island. A lot of the policies and things that are taking place is affecting our historic neighborhoods. But I want to say, just as chairman of the Gullah Geechee Land and Cultural Preservation Task Force, that we are concerned about all the historic neighborhoods, and even furthermore, we're concerned about the total community. So we represent everyone on this island that has a heart and a desire for cultural preservation. Sometimes there's a lot of misinformation out there, but I'm confident in the staff here at the town. I have a lot of confidence in my town council. We've done a lot of good work in the last 4 or 5 years since we've had this task force formed. If you know of issues out there in the community and people that need to know what's going on here in the town, you can please direct them toward the task force, or certainly toward our staff or any of our elected officials. Again, I want to thank our elected officials for being here, Councilwoman Becker and Councilman Brown. Thank you for your time and your attention. And with that, I will also like to always recognize Mr. Barnwell, one of my dearest friends and mentors, and for your wisdom and support over the years. Thank you, Councilor Chet, for being here as well. And with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. We find ourselves adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.